Hello and welcome everyone to Red Planet Live. I am your host, Ashton Zeth. I'm elated to be hosting the Mars Society's podcast and leading the conversation about human exploration of the universe and the future settlement of Mars. As a longtime space enthusiast, I am passionate about STEM education and making humanity an interplanetary species. Thank you everybody for joining today and supporting Red Planet Live. Going to remind everybody, you've heard me say it before, there's still time to register. The 2025 International Mars Society Convention is scheduled for October 9th through the 11th at the University of Southern California in Los Angeles. That's USC. This year, we're celebrating the 28th year. The theme is Mars, the time has come, and we will focus on Mars exploration, human settlement planning, and cutting-edge space technologies. If you go to the Mars Society's website, which you can see it right there, there is information about hotels now. So if you are interested in attending, make sure to get your hotel booked early. I know that weekend at USC is homecoming, so it's going to be a little packed on campus. So make sure you get your hotel booked early. Want to remind everybody as well that we are still running the MDRS campaign, trying to raise funds for improvements around the habitat. The crew that is going to be joining here in a moment can talk to you about MDRS and kind of what their experiences was like. But again, raising funds to provide improvements to MDRS. So every donation does include a perk. So if you donate, you will get a special prize for contributing to the effort. So thank you to everybody that's already donated, and let's continue to see those donations come in. So like I said, today's crew is the crew of MDRS 315, who recently completed their mission at the Mars Society's Mars Desert Research Station in Utah. So I want to introduce our crew. First up is David Laude, who is the commander. David is a lifelong space enthusiast whose passion began in elementary school and was fueled by witnessing the historic launches of Apollo 11 and the first space shuttle. He's met lunar astronauts and has long dreamed of humanity's journey to Mars. David served in the U.S. Air Force and went on to earn degrees in electrical engineering, cutting-edge integrated circuits, and securing 7 patents. He's also presented his work internationally and has formal training in anthropology and archaeology. He is a founding member of the Mars Society. David is also a lifelong learner with a wide range of interests, from restoring antique radios, pipe organs, to composing music and flying model airplanes. He's an adventurer at heart with a special love for Utah's Mars-like landscape. David, thank you so much for being here.
I'm very happy to be here and answer your questions.
Excited to be chatting with you. I love your flight suit, and you've got all your mission patches on there. Are those previous crew missions that you've been on?
Yeah, all except for one. I've been on too many missions, I think.
Can't fit them all? There you go.
Yeah, there's one missing right now.
I love it. Okay, well, we're going to get into that. Next up, we have Michael Andrews, who is the crew engineer. Michael is an aerospace industry professional with over 10 years of experience in warehousing and logistics for defense contractors and launch providers. He graduated from the University of Florida in 2012 with dual degrees in mechanical and aerospace engineering, and has a master's in business administration from Arizona State University. Michael has led teams for various companies and operations in California and Texas, including experience in receiving, shipping, transportation, tool cribs, inventory, and storage. In 2020, he received his CPIM certification. Last summer, he also served on the Flashline crew, which, Michael, you were on the podcast earlier this year, talking about your Flashline time. And for fun, Michael is an avid jogger, hiker, scuba diver, and cat dad. Michael, thank you for being here.
Great to be back. Thank you.
Excited to chat with you again. Next up, we have Urban Coy, who is the Health and Safety Officer. Coy is the Principal Investigator and Space System Engineer of Mushroom Forge, a NASA-funded project developing solutions for human life support, and habitation systems. Also participates as a bioastronautic researcher at the International Institute for Astronautical Studies. Also, as you can see here, an analog astronaut serving at MDRS, a rescue scuba diver, co-leader of the 100 Cameras Board of Creatives, and award-winning founder, director, and photographer of So2 Studio, a multidisciplinary studio that connects the realms of art, science, engineering, and space. Coy holds a master's in space systems engineering from John Hopkins University and is on the path to becoming a future doctor of space medicine. You can follow her journey on Instagram at UrbanXCoy. All right. Thank you so much for being here. I'm excited to chat with you as well. You look great in your flight suit, I have to say.
Yes, happy to be here.
All right. And last but not least, we have Tim Gagnon, who is the crew artist. Tim is a talented space artist based in Florida's Space Coast. Growing up in Connecticut, Tim's love for both space and art started early. He vividly remembers watching the Apollo missions on a black and white TV. For his 16th birthday, he even attended the Apollo 17 launch as a guest of NASA, a moment that inspired his lifelong dream to design a mission patch for flight crew. That dream became a reality in 2004 when astronaut John Phillips chose Tim to design the Expedition 11 patch for the International Space Station. Since then, Tim has created patches for some NASA missions, including STS-126, 127, and 133, as well as a long list of International Space Station expeditions. His work continues to fly in space and spark imaginations here on Earth. Tim, thank you for being here as well.
Thanks for the invitation. I look forward to it.
It was pretty cool to scroll through your website and see some of the mission patches. We're definitely going to have to talk today about how you designed the mission patch for this crew.
Looking forward to it.
Well, let's jump right in. On the podcast, we do a quick segment called Question of the Day. It's just meant to be an icebreaker, no right or wrong answers. It's just your opinion. But for today, the question, because you're a crew, you recently went on mission, and then you came home, my question to you is, what is the first thing that you do when you get home from a trip? I'll give you a second to think about it. I'll give you some context. Are you the person that comes home and immediately unpacks your suitcase? Or maybe you're like me and still have a suitcase that's full of clothes, some unwashed, some unworn, but they're still waiting there to be unpacked. So what is the first thing that you do when you get home from a trip? David, I know you've got an answer for this one. So
yeah, it doesn't directly address your question, although I think it's close enough. So what do I do after I leave MDRS? Because getting home is just pretty boring. I don't get home for another 2 weeks. So when I leave MDRS, I have a small Class B motorhome, and I'm dying to go in the desert. So I spend 10 days to 12 days in the desert in my RV at Valley of the Gods in southeastern Utah. It's become one of my favorite places to go. I take along with me some of my hobby things, model airplanes, repair supplies, batteries and stuff. Before I leave to go to the desert, though, I do, load up on supplies, food and stuff, and 2 beers. I allow myself 2 beers in the desert. So I go out to the desert, and it's a high desert, so it's not just a bunch of sand dunes. It's beautiful. Think Monument Valley. I can see Monument Valley from my campsites there, and I have a number of great campsites. Anyway, so that's what I do.
Okay. All right. Michael, what about you? First thing, you went on a trip, you've been gone a couple weeks, you come home. What are you doing?
Yeah, for me, it's real simple. My cat, the attendant to my cat, he gets very upset if I'm gone too long. So taking care of him first thing, catching up on cuddles is that's my first thing. Laundry and clothes are last. The cat's first.
Get to that. Okay. Going left to right. Coy, what about you? You come home from a trip. What are you doing?
In addition to unpacking immediately, I always like to come back home and have some quiet reflection time to process my experience. I love to go through my photography and films and journal entries, capturing any new insights or memorable moments while they're still fresh. It's a way for me to decompress, appreciate the journey, and integrate what I've learned before jumping back into my regular routine. This reflection helps me carry the inspiration and lessons from my travels forward, both personally and professionally.
What a professional. Comes home and like you're decompressing and you're going through your like you said, your photography, your film. That's a true professional right there. All right, Tim, round it out. What are you doing when you get home from a trip?
Well, my answer might be the most cliche, but I unpack immediately because that stuff has to get into the hamper. But my wife greets me. She makes me something great for dinner, and I've taken a shower while she's cooking, and then I take a nap in my recliner because I haven't sat in a nice, comfortable chair for 2 weeks.
We are one and the same there. That's what I want to do when I come home. A lovely homemade meal. You take a shower, sit in the recliner, and just relax. I love it. I would say probably the same. A shower after traveling is probably a top thing to accomplish if in my own experience. I hate the thought of like, okay, you've been on an airplane, you've been in like public spaces, and now you're gonna get in bed and maybe you've got some of those outside germs on. So, yeah, gotta take a shower for sure. But okay, let's jump into it. Obviously, there's a lot to learn about your mission, and so I figure like let's start at the beginning. Analog missions are not for the faint of heart. What inspired each of you to participate in an analog mission? Michael, I know you've we talked last year or this year. I said this earlier. Sorry, this year. Time is flying. We talked earlier this year about your flashline crew, and so you've done it a few times, as have you, David. But Michael, tell me about why did you want to participate in another analog mission?
Yeah. I've done both of the Mars Society analogs so far, and for me, it was really interesting to see the difference between the two. Right, the MDRS has had hundreds of crews, and Flashline is really getting started again after a few years hiatus. So, getting to see how MDRS was more developed and has a longer history is helpful so that I can help plan and set up the Flashline crews for more success in the future. And then also for me, it's a fun way to it's how I like to use my vacation time, and how I like to kind of get away, but then also do something that I'm passionate about, and I return, refreshed and rejuvenated, because I really do enjoy meeting the crews and then kind of immersing myself in a mission for a few months.
I love it. That's a good answer. Some people want to go to a beach and like drink a pina colada and like not think about work, but some people want to go to work. They want to use their vacation days to be a part of a crew, to work towards something you're passionate about. I love it.
But if there were pina coladas at MDRS, that'd be even better. We could do both,
We can both worlds. I think we could make that happen for future crews. David, what about you? You've been on a few missions now. Why did you want to participate in Crew 315?
Yeah, I'm a founding member of the Mars Society, so I've been with the Mars Society quite a while. And in 2006, I retired from my career in microelectronics design. And so I have plenty of hobbies and things to do. I'm in retirement, but I somehow thought about volunteering for an MDRS mission. And I did secure a mission in 2009 with Crew 80. And so I've been several times, and one reason why I like to go again and again and again as long as I can is so I've accumulated all this knowledge over the years of going there, and really my acquaintances and friends at home, I can't really talk to them very much about it, very shallow level, but since I have all this experience and knowledge, I like to be able to impart it upon new crew members. And so, for this crew and my next crew, we're starting 10 months in advance with me training them. And I love meeting new people. So one thing about our crew is it's a Mars Society crew, which means we all independently, without knowing each other, applied and got accepted. So we're all strangers. And I kind of like that, meeting strangers and a lot of great people. And I love Utah. It's my favorite state. I live in Colorado, but I love Utah. I've grown to love the deserts, and I love MDRS, and I love EVAs. So what else can I say?
Okay. Tim, what about you? Was this your first analog mission?
Yeah, I was definitely one of the rookies on this crew. and very grateful to have an experienced commander and engineer.
Mhm.
But I've been supporting the Mars Society for the last 10 years, helping other crews design their analog mission patches. And I was approached by the Mars Society. Is this something you would consider? We've been thinking for a while of having an artist embedded into a crew. And I said, absolutely yes. So it was, it was a bucket list item. And, so I can check that one off. But it was a very enjoyable experience because I was in Utah with some amazing folks.
Mm-hmm. Okay, we're gonna talk about the crew patch here coming up. Coy, what about you? What inspired you to want to go on an analog mission?
I just wanted to be as close to space as possible. I'm also on the journey to become a doctor of space medicine. So I wanted to experience what it would be like as a future astronaut medical officer. Analog astronauts live and conduct experiments in Earth's most extreme environments for scientific research to prepare humans to future missions to the moon, Mars, and beyond. And space exploration is a complex venture that requires years of research, preparation, and risk mitigation. So we must conduct research to maximize survival and sustainability before launching humanity beyond Earth. And there is no better place for a Mars simulation other than the largest and longest running Mars surface research facility, the Mars Desert Research Station.
Love the subtle plug there. No, that was perfect. And the thumbs up from David as well.
Yeah.
So you mentioned, David, you mentioned that your crew was strangers. You guys didn't know each other. You all applied as individuals, and then you came together as a crew. So you've been assigned as a crew. Now you have to make a plan. What were some of your mission objectives? And then how did you establish potentially the research or the initiatives that you were going to conduct while you were there to support those mission objectives?
Okay, well, yeah, the mission objectives are to complete the research projects and to safely return everybody back to Earth afterwards, of course.
Yeah.
So like I said, we started about 10 months early. We had that luxury because we were the last crew of the season. And one of the things I focus on at every meeting, all the way up until about a month before we deploy, is development of our crew roles and our research projects. Frequently, when a crew first meets up, some of the crew members don't have projects or they just have a faint idea. Others have a pretty good understanding what they want to do. So, I try to lead them and get them to develop projects, and so that we can, in March, all attend the research project approval meeting with the MDRS director.
Are there specific research projects that you guys were working on that you can talk about? I think, Coy, you could speak potentially to 100 cameras.
Sure. So as health and safety officer, my duty is to oversee the physical health, mental wellness, well-being, and safety of my crew, including ensuring our medical supplies are fully stocked and providing emergency care if needed. Space exploration presents unique physiological challenges for astronauts, particularly during long-duration missions where isolation, confinement, and distance from Earth can lead to significant emotional and mental stress. We actually launched the first ever 100 cameras space initiative at MDRS, where all of my crewmates participated in a unique photography curriculum that lasted the entire mission, developed over 15 years of research and practice. The 100 cameras curriculum and method leverages photography as a dynamic tool for self-expression, fostering emotional intelligence, resilience, and community building skills. The 100 cameras method has been recognized by the United Nations Center for Policy Research, the UNUCPR, UNIDIR, and UNICEF for its positive impact on empowerment globally by integrating the 100 cameras method into the wellness toolkit of future astronauts and analog astronauts, we aim to provide future astronauts with a structured yet flexible approach to document their experiences, process emotions, and strengthen connections with their environment and peers, combating the psychological effects of space travel.
Okay. Well, I think we have some photos here. So I'm going to click through these, and then maybe you can kind of talk to the photos that were shown here. So let's start with this one. Okay. Got a night sky view.
Yeah, so this is actually taken on our first day at MDRS, and the weather was absolutely perfect for stargazing, and that is a bonding activity that we did together. And this was my first time ever being in Utah, and there are no words to fully describe the beautiful night sky without any light pollution. So I grew up in New York City, so there's tons of light pollution. So for me, this was the most beautiful sight I could ever have to start my analog mission with.
It's beautiful. Okay, what are we looking at here?
This is, I can let the crew engineer Andrews, my wonderful crewmate here, explain what he's doing here, but I can introduce this photo. He is doing 3D scanning, and this is one of the photos that I took on one of our EVAs that we did together. And I'll let him take it away.
Yeah. So this was my project. I essentially kind of came up with this when I was at Flashline, but we can't take samples back from the Arctic. So what we needed to do is find some way to analyze them without returning them, which is not dissimilar from like the Mars sample return issue. So just using a 3D scanner, you can create a 3D model. You kind of take different scans of its texture, its geometry, its color, put them all together. And so I got pretty good in the beginning of the mission to take a rock sample during an EVA, bring it back to the science dome and scan it. But eventually I created kind of this like little shroud out of items from the station so that I didn't have too much ambient light, and got it down to the point where within about 45 minutes we could find a sample on an EVA, scan it, and then use a Starlink to essentially send that file back to the station or to mission support on Earth.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Let's see. This next one here. Hollow Mountain. What is it that we're looking at here?
This is also from one of our first days at MDRS, and this is where we did a stopover for gas and drinks and snacks, and we were just so enamored by the beautiful rock formation and how this gas station and store is literally built inside of the rock. And from a geological point of view, this is just absolutely fascinating and amazing to have a little glimpse of the Utah architecture and landscape.
Yeah. Well, speaking of snacks and drinks, I see some food photos here, and this food looks amazing. This looks delicious. What are we looking at here? We've got a couple food options shown.
That's what was starting to be a tray of chocolate chip cookies, but I may have put a little too much baking soda in the mix, and they all kind of flattened out. So we carved them into brownies, very thin, chocolatey brownies.
And then you make lemonade. Like
that's
we got brownies.
Adapt and overcome. And
then we got some pastries here. I think we got a pizza as well.
Actually, the second image was egg cups.
Egg cups.
We had some with Spam for those of us boomers that remember and enjoy that. And then, of course, we had to be respectful of Coy and Elena, who don't appreciate Spam for its glory, but wanted to make sure they had a good, healthy breakfast. So they had, things like freeze-dried vegetables and mushrooms and stuff like that in theirs. And that worked out really well.
I have to say, I mean, when I think of potentially a crew mission out in the desert, you kind of imagine you're eating like the freeze-dried, packaged military type rations. But then you see photos like this, and you're like, wow, this looks really good. So is somebody on the crew like a chef, a really good cook, or you just all happen to be skilled in culinary arts? Because these look awesome.
Yeah, so we actually rotated between myself, Tim, and Elena. So we were the three main cooks, and then the rest of the crew assisted as sous chefs, so to speak. We actually experimented with what we had. We had the green herb ingredients, so we utilized a lot of the green herb supplies, such as the chives, green onions, and herbs, rosemary, thyme, and other microgreens. And so those photos incorporate every single ingredient that was shelf stable provided to us within the kitchen, as well as the garden in the green herb. And so we experimented. I'm surprised it didn't show that one of the breads that we baked, but we experimented with the bread machine and made a ton of different fruit brands utilizing freeze-dried apples and strawberries. And we got really creative with what we created in the kitchen. So yes, it looks absolutely delicious. And I was surprised, and I think everyone on the crew is also surprised that, you can create unique and delicious foods utilizing freeze-dried and shelf-stable foods.
Mm-hmm.
I have to give a credit to my crewmate Coy, who made sure that the presentation was appetizing. I mean, I would not have had the patience to put the little parsley leaves on the pizza in such a nice geometric pattern, because half of the pizza would have been gone by now.
Okay, we've got a couple other photos. I just want to make sure that I get through the other ones that we have here. Okay, so we've got somebody on EVA. We've got a rover here. What else? That
was a picture taken by Michael of Coy, and that was one of the ones imitating a Apollo-themed painting by Alan Bean. The name of the painting is First Class Rock Photographer. And so I shared those images with my crewmates, and we recreated as many of those as we could.
Mm-hmm. Okay. We've got another photo here. You guys gearing up for EVA?
Yep, that's the boss and myself getting ready to go outside for the first time for me.
First trips. Okay. When I see we got some of our
I can talk about this here. So these are our space suits. We have a couple of them. So these are two-piece suits. You can't see it here, but there's the backpack and then there's the separate helmets. So the other suits on the previous photo are all one built-in suit, and so there's a couple different suits, and some of them are good for EVA. Some of them are more mobile. They're more comfortable for being in the rovers. But I'll tell you specifically, as the engineer, I spent more time fixing these than the one-piece suits. So we ended up making those other ones a little more.
Well, I have to show this crew photo. You guys look so professional in your crew photo here with your suits on, helmets, ready to go. Was this early in your mission or towards the end?
Well, they can't smell it, but this is at the end of our mission.
If only it was a scratch.
That's why it's outside.
We used a tripod for this and my camera.
I love it. Okay, we got a couple others. Coy, this is you, and then you're a fifth crew member, right?
Yes, Elena Saavedra Buckley. So she's the one who held up her phone to take a photo of us. But this is also day one of orientation, where we were learning how to utilize the rovers. So that is why we are not in the EVA suit. Otherwise, each time we exit the airlock, we must be in an EVA suit. So this is, broken protocol here, but for orientation purposes and learning purposes.
Got it. Okay, and Dave there on the rover. I'm assuming this is also early in crew mission.
Yeah, it is.
Okay, and so we've got one more, and I've heard there's a story behind this. So maybe you can, David, you could speak to this one.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, there's a story. So right after the pandemic, the first crew was crew 228. I attended crew 228. And after it was over, the director, Dr. Shannon Rubert, suggested I get in the rover with my regular clothes on and go to the moon overlook. And so I went there, and it's pretty far north. It's about almost as far as anybody would go in EVA.
Mm-hmm.
And so the overlook, you're looking down on some rolling gray hills, and then further back, it looks more Mars-like again. But way off in the distance, I saw something. If you extend your hand and make a gap about a 1/4 inch, I saw something very unusual out there that looked completely different from anything else I've seen in Utah and all my months of adventures there. And it was just been in the back of my mind for several years. So when I started with this crew, I was one who didn't have a project right away. And it occurred to me that maybe I could make a project that made some kind of use of that monolith that was way off in the distance, such a mysterious looking object. So one thing I noticed on all the dozens of EVAs I've been on is that we'll go on EVA to some location that we see on the map and we'll walk around there, and once in a while we'll have a drone to launch, and then we'll go back to the hab. So I thought, well, if you're on Mars, why not, when you're at a vantage point, an overlook, look out in the distance and see if there's something else out there interesting. So I came up with this project of mine called a methodology to extend the range of EVAs. And our first target was the monolith. And so the methodology is just simply determining where the object is on a map. And we didn't have a map with that object on the map. First of all, our maps didn't extend that far. And secondly, even on Google Earth, it was very difficult to find anything that resembled it, looking straight down on it.
Mm-hmm.
So we resorted to triangulation. We went to a couple different locations with a magnetic compass, triangulated it. And yet your viewers might say, well, there's no magnetic core on Mars to use a magnetic compass. Well, on Mars, you can use an inertial compass. So we did so, and we got a pretty good idea of where it was, and it was off our map. And so we plotted a way to get there. We wanted to drive as far as we could with the rover, obviously.
Mm-hmm.
So we looked on the maps to see where we could get to with the rover. And then we exited the rover and started walking with the drone that we took with us as far as we could, up to a high point, actually, where we could actually see the monolith. And because there's very few places you can actually see it. You have to get up high, and there's only a couple locations I know. So we walked to that location, and Coy launched a drone. She got as close as she could, and she got, one of the photos I think was that one that you just showed.
Mm-hmm.
So one day, well, we were in the hab looking at the photos. I noticed, hey, it looks something like a phoenix rising out of the ashes, because it has these two vertical slopes like wings, and then a more vertical, which would be like the head of a bird. And our crew name was Phoenix. So after that, we started calling it the Phoenix monolith.
I love it.
So the whole story, I think, unless I forgot something about that interesting project. Oh, by the way, the whole crew, I didn't try to get everybody excited about it, but they all did. And it was great to have everybody interested in that project.
Everybody involved. Well, speaking of that Phoenix, Tim, I wanted to specifically ask you about the the crew patch. And so I'm going to show some pictures that you shared with us. But one is showing the mission patch, which has the Phoenix right in the middle. So I was curious, like, how did you start designing this patch? How were you inspired? But was it a collaborative process, or you just leaned in on your years of experience to come up with something stellar?
Well, no patch has a single parent, so it's always a collaboration. And for this patch, we started with let's choose a team name. We wanted to have a crew name. There is the FMARS crew last year, I think Crew 15, went with Arctic Wolves. So we had to come up with something cool as well.
Mm-hmm.
And we settled on Phoenix, which, just as cool. And then we made up different rough designs, and at crew meetings I would share them with the rest of everybody. And like working with astronauts for NASA, there were elements that they liked, elements that they didn't like, so let's try to do this instead of that. And we settled pretty quickly by having our campus in the foreground at the bottom. Our ship, and if you look at the MDRS 228 patch, which was my first experience with David, we used a similar ship on that patch. Mm-hmm. So we imagine that would be, and this is what David's patch looks like. Oops.
There we go.
And so we needed to include that because, now we were on a crew together with David. And the beauty of the campus, is obvious. I can just imagine whoever was on the site selection committee, when they discovered that area in southern Utah, they knew damn well that was going to be Mars. Mm-hmm. And it was just perfect because with all the high fidelity equipment and procedures, you can easily accept that you are no longer home, but you are out away on a mission, and it just flowed together. We kept 6 stars on the patch because we did have a 6th crew member, Upasana Mohanty, but she had to drop out due to her PhD program. Mm-hmm. She's studying currently in Italy. Mm-hmm. And but we said she was on the crew for almost a year, and so that 6th star on the patch is a tribute to her.
Got it. Well, I like that you still incorporated that star. And I see there's I'm going to show this photo, another rendering that you provided. Yep. This looks so official. This is really cool.
Well, that was the goal. We weren't all together, and I had to ask my crewmates for some photos to use, and it was just a matter of, okay, David is the most experienced commander. He's dead center, hands on hip, ready to go. And Michael is his wingman. He's right behind him. And Coy she doesn't say it, and she may not even acknowledge it, but she's a badass in her own right. And so I had to give her, that sense of confidence and that professionalism. Mm-hmm. And then Elena is a journalist. I'm an artist. So we're like the non-scientist members of the crew. We're like the color commentators. Mm-hmm. And it was wonderful to be accepted by these professionals as a full-fledged member. And if you notice on David's flight suit, the 228 patch is there. Mm-hmm. On Michael's, the FMARS 15 or 16 patches there. And the 100 cameras patches are on their sleeves. And I was fortunate enough to work with all those entities to create all those patches.
That's very cool.
Yeah. And I do want to say I appreciate Tim gave me a few extra inches on this photo when David was in that. So I was very appreciative of it,
Yeah,
you had lifts on that day. What can I tell you?
Yeah, exactly.
Thank you, Tim, for your kind words and also your amazing art. But, I just want to say that you and Elena have brought so much to the team and crew. So, not coming from a science background doesn't mean that you don't bring wealth and skill and expertise and just amazing skills to the team. And I wanted to say that the Phoenix is actually incredibly deep and meaningful. So during the Big Bang, billions of years ago, the universe began as a tiny, dense fireball that created a massive explosion. And our universe is cyclical, where the cosmos undergoes a continuous process of birth, expansion, and rebirth, like the phoenix. And so the phoenix, we wanted it to represent a symbol of unrelenting persistence, determination, and hope, despite all the challenges and hardship that come with space missions. And akin to the Big Bang, after being engulfed in flames, the phoenix returns, reborn again. And Mars is an arid desert planet, but it wasn't always a desert planet. Billions of years ago, it was a planet with vast rivers and lakes that once supported life. And the main mission to Mars is to discover those signs of life and evolve humans into multiplanetary species, as you've mentioned, Ashton. The phoenix can also represent that we, as humanity, are bringing Mars back to life.
How do I follow up from that? That was beautiful. I mean, and on the spot too. Like it's almost like you've rehearsed that before. That was
and one final nod. We chose to have the Phoenix landing at MDRS as opposed to rising from MDRS because David and I both saw Apollo 11 in real time. And if you look at our patch and the Apollo 11 patch side by side, you will see some similarities.
Mm-hmm. Speaking of the patches, I've got one other that I want to show here, and Tim, you can speak to this. So tell me, are these some of the mission patches that you've previously designed for those other missions like I mentioned?
The person posing with me in this photo is my brother from another mother, Dr. Jorge Kartz, and he contacted me after the Expedition 11 patch was revealed and shared with me that he wanted to design a mission patch one day as well. And I said, well, I don't know if we'll ever get another opportunity, but should that arise, let's collaborate. Mm-hmm. So separately, I did 11, he did 37, but together we did 14 ISS missions and 5 more shuttle missions. And so all, working with Jorge has made me a better artist. These 9 patches are the ones I've done for the Mars Society. The bottom row is FMARS 2025 missions coming up. Advance 1 leaves next week, and then the 17 and 18 crew happens later this summer.
That's very cool. Now I'm, Tim, I might have to tap you on the shoulder for. I'm currently in the Thunderbird School of Global Management, the space program, Space Business Leadership and Policy. And we've actually spent the year thinking about, if we had a pin, a patch, a something, we're the 3rd cohort. So I might have to maybe get your expertise on designing something for us.
Well, I know a guy. I can help you out.
Okay. All right. We're gonna take that piece offline and we'll figure that out. But I do see that we have a question here from the audience, and I want to make sure that I don't monopolize all of our time together and make sure that we give an audience opportunity to ask some questions. So let's see. This question is from Videographer Experience, who asks, on the simulated Mars mission, does the crew operate flight systems in a mock crew cabin and have communications with a team back on Earth? Can you guys speak to that?
Yeah, I guess I should answer that. So we communicate with just one entity outside of us, and we really don't have any kind of mock-up crew cabin.
Mm-hmm. No crew cabin. Okay.
We don't have a flight deck like a crew cabin, like what I think the questioner was asking, but we do have a Capcom station. And and Michael, the engineer, made sure all the rest of the equipment, the suits and everything else worked out well. So we do have work areas in addition to living areas. Mm-hmm. And it's about as high fidelity as possible. Letting Coy fly drones was about as much risk as they were willing to take in Utah. They didn't want us flying around.
Fair. What was the communication like with mission control or back home? I've heard crews before before they go into simulation, they as a group agree like, yes, we're going to be full simulation. We're going to simulate the delay in communication between Mars and Earth. So anytime we send out an email, like on a Discord or something, there's a delay built into that. So that when we receive it, it's as if we were on Mars. So what's communications like? And did you guys have that same scenario where you were delaying communication?
Yeah, we didn't have a delay. I got there about a day or two before the rest of the crew and talked to Director Sergey about having a delay. And he suggested we not do that. So we had instantaneous communication with mission support. So mission support would come online 7 p.m. every night while we were in sim. And we start submitting our reports to mission support at that time, especially trying to get EVA requests approved before the next morning. So it was a pretty narrow window. I think it was 7 to 9 o'clock each evening. We had that communications window with mission support.
Were you able to communicate? Oh, go ahead, Michael.
Oh yeah, I was going to tell just an interesting story. We typically are only interacting with mission support, right? We can send emails on the comms window, but Coy and I have an interesting story where we communicated with folks on an EVA because this whole area is public land, and we went out on an EVA. We're in our suits. We're taking rock samples on like a cliff face, and we see kind of a ways away. We see, just a van parked in the dirt. And so we stay away from them because we're trying to immerse our experience. And then we're about to head back to our rover, and they start running up to us, right? And so we have protocol where we don't engage these folks, and we're talking to each other. We want to try to people know that these missions happen nearby, but they're running up to us. And I'm talking to Coy, and I said, I think their van is stuck. And so they had taken this rental van way off the road.
Alien
and so we kind of had the radio.
Extraterrestrial life.
Yeah, and so exactly. Yeah, so we weren't able to, it was definitely an interesting experience where we tried to keep the simulation going, but also got mission support to help those folks out. So that was definitely an interesting time where communication was somewhat strained.
And I happened to be Capcom when that call came in, and I'm like Jack Lausma during Apollo 13. I said, "Say again, please."
We have alien encounters.
Then I called Skipper downstairs. We need to get mission support.
Oh, that's so funny. Yeah, that's a new one. I haven't heard that from other crews. That outsiders are encroaching and running up to them while they're on EVA. But
I will say we did not break protocol, so we went through comms and everything within our abilities as an analog astronaut.
I want to clarify something. I said the comms window was 7 to 9, but during certain circumstances, like any kind of emergency or urgency, we could communicate with mission support right away over radios.
Okay. If you needed it, you still had that option. Well, speaking of communications, Coy, I know that you had a special moment where you were communicating with the outside while you were on mission at MDRS. Can you talk about that story?
Yes, absolutely. So NASA actually announced that my project Mushroom Forge, which stands for Fungi Off-World Resource Generation Ecosystem, won seed funding in the middle of our MDRS mission. Prior, I had to make a special request to comms mission support to connect into the NASA mission meeting on Earth, but the internet had cut out in the science dome in the middle of the meeting right when they were going to announce the winner. And I had to run back to the main hab, and I made it just in time to give my speech. And my amazing and lovely crew actually left the main hab and spread across campus.
We scrambled like rats out of it. We were not going to be the reason that comm was messed up.
Thank
And
you so much to the
I'll slap
amazing
the
crew.
coin.
I love my crew so dearly. We meshed really well, and I don't have a biological family, so my crew is my family, and it worked out really well in the end. But it was a bit of a scramble behind the scenes. NASA couldn't tell since we all did it perfectly, but it was a bit of a scramble behind the scenes. So Mushroom Forge is a revolutionary in situ system for food production on the moon, Mars, and beyond. By harnessing the unique properties of fungi, it addresses critical challenges in long-duration missions, converting waste into valuable resources, producing safe, nutrient-rich mushrooms. And since farming is really difficult in space, I hope that the technology that I created will help combat that challenge.
That's incredible. Well, congratulations on the funding award, and how funny that you were there on mission. And of course, what's a mission without a little technical difficulty right at the worst moment? But you made it through, and yeah, congratulations. That's very exciting. You were just saying that your crew, you love everybody, like you guys have bonded. I know that individuals, when they're thinking about participating in a mission, or just imagining like, oh, could I ever do that? And I think people struggle with the idea of being in a small confined space with people that they don't know, strangers living and working together. It's probably easy to get annoyed with people. I mean, our the things that we do may bother people. So can you speak a little bit to like, what is the dynamic like? How do you work as a team in a small confined space with people that you don't know? How do you not let the kind of mundane pet peeve things not irritate you? And how do you bond as a crew when you're on mission?
Well, I can say a few words. I'm sure all the other crew members can, but we start bonding from a very first Zoom meeting.
Mm-hmm.
I mentioned is about 10 months before we actually meet up. And one of the things I do in the Zoom meetings I have not seen done before for MDRS Zoom meetings is we start out with a social time where we can socialize. And we usually don't do it very long, but it's something anyway. And, so many Zoom meetings, we get to work with each other on Zoom in a number of ways, helping people determine exactly how the research project should work out, or transportation. There's just so many different things that once we arrive there, we already have a lot in common. Now, I'll let some others speak maybe more about what happens once we are in sim.
Yeah. Michael, what about you?
Yeah, I think for all of us it was important. We gathered around kind of the dinner table. That was where we'd always hang out. And I think, a lot of times we're all there talking in between EVAs, and sometimes people like to go off. I personally was a big fan of going off to the RAM, kind of the engineering area, and getting my own personal time. But I think that at the end of the day, I think we did a little bit of bonding on the meetings that prepared us for this, but also I think that we all kind of have some similar personality traits that makes you want to do this kind of thing. So even though we're all from different backgrounds and different walks of life, I think we had some common threads on being excited about this and resilient. So I think we all bonded really well. And like we still, our Slack channel that we used to coordinate beforehand, we still message each other and things like that. So I think what's really interesting is just once this is said and done, we're still keeping in touch.
Everybody's still friends. Just mission. That's the sign.
I can add a couple more things while we're in sim. That is, every morning we gather for breakfast. That's good. And then we have a meeting at 8 o'clock where we talk about what we're going to do the rest of the day and what EVAs we want to go on the next day. And there are a few evenings where we have time to watch movies. Or we could do other things. I gave a presentation on some history of electronics because over my long career, I collected some, you call artifacts now, that I showed the crew.
Yeah. Okay.
I was absolutely stunned that Michael had never seen 2001: A Space Odyssey.
Oh,
we corrected
that's
that.
not okay.
yeah, yeah. The monolith has a whole new meaning to me now
Yes.
after
Yeah.
having seen the movie.
Yeah.
Yeah. It was good. I'm glad I watched it with the crew.
I
Yeah.
would
For the first
totally
time.
go on another mission with all of you. Serving as health and safety officer was not only a critical responsibility, but it was also incredible opportunity to support such an amazing crew. The camaraderie, resilience, and shared passion for space that we cultivated created an environment where each of us could thrive with our unique skills and expertise. And being part of such a dedicated team deepened my commitment to human space. And I look forward to future missions where I can contribute and learn and grow alongside all of you, Commander Laude, Engineer Andrews, crew artist Tim, and I could not have asked for a better team.
Oh, I love that. I think that's a good reminder for anybody that is considering going on an analog mission, that the things that you may be fearful about, that I'm not gonna get along with people, or I'm not gonna feel welcomed by my team. I'm gonna feel like an outsider. I think listening to you guys talk about your experience and how you bonded and what the experience was like for you, and how you left MDRS feeling about each other and about your mission, is a good reminder for those that are considering it. Like, put those fears aside. There's a lot more positives, and it's going to be a more impactful or influential experience than potentially what the fears are telling you. But yeah, Tim, I wanted to ask you specifically. So having not been on crew before, did you have some of those fears going into this mission?
My biggest fear, because I have had episodes in my life where I was claustrophobic. And my biggest fear was, when I get this suit on, that I'm not going to be able to breathe, and I'm going to have to rip it off, and there goes EVAs.
Yeah.
But luckily that didn't happen. However, they shouldn't have guys my size in a rover that small. So if I win the lottery, we're getting a bigger rover.
I'm sure
all my crewmates, wonderful people, take the backpack on, get the helmet on, hop in the rover like, it's nothing. And I'm like trying to put 5 pounds into a 2-pound bag. It wasn't happening.
Well,
not easily anyway.
Fingers crossed. Sergey has his fingers crossed that you win that lottery, so he can get another rover.
Yes.
Well, Coy said, "Hey, I would love to go on a crew with you all again. Is everybody interested in doing this? Maybe not necessarily with each other, and maybe not MDRS. Maybe it's Flashline or somewhere else. Would you all go on an analog mission again? Is that in the future?"
I would. The mistake I did make was not training as seriously as I should have, because I used muscles that I hadn't used in a long time. I'm 68 years old, and so I would be better prepared than I was this time, so that I'm more effective and better at it, and enjoy it even more next time.
Yeah, David, the veteran, you've been on many missions. Are there more in your future?
Oh, yeah. So I have one coming up next April, Crew 335, and we need a health and safety officer. Ashton, you've been thinking about going on a crew?
I mean, I'm not sure I'm qualified for health and safety officer, but maybe
first aid training is enough. Current first aid training is enough.
I'm not sure I could follow in Coy's footsteps. I mean, her background, that would be hard to follow.
Following your own footsteps.
But crew journalist, I would love to host a specific Red Planet Live podcast episode interviewing my crew while we're on mission. I think that would be fun.
That's what I'm thinking. So I already talked to Sergey about this, and he said that you could apply for HSO on Crew 335.
Hey, I did apply. I think it was earlier this year. It was right before the season was ending, so there wasn't a good time to make it out. But yeah, that might be in the future. That would be pretty fun. I feel like I have to at this point. I talked to enough crews, being involved with Mars Society, the podcast. I feel like that's something I need on my resume, is going on an analog mission.
Absolutely, you should.
One of these times. Well, I appreciate all of you for participating, for joining today, for answering all of our questions. Can you believe an hour has already gone by? It goes by really fast. So I just want to say thank you for participating, answering all the questions. Want to give a special thanks to our executive director, James Burke, our PR director, Michael Stoltz. Thank you, Leah, our executive producer, always operating behind the scenes. And going to finish today's episode like we always do. And I think this probably is going to resonate with each of my guests as well. But the best is yet to come. Thanks, everybody. Have a good rest of your day.